Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Hongos, and you've decided to pick yourself up either a Canon R6 or R5, which means that you're in the business for a brand spanking new RF lens, and you're eyeing yourself a 16mm f2.8. And I gotta say, this is a lens that everybody should be picking up because it does very well all across the board, with some minor caveats, of course. Let's get right into the review. I can't blame you for looking, since the lens is very small, which means if you're either vlogging or in a cramped space like this, you're gonna want to get it because of its price point. And I think Canon did a fantastic job. Of course, they left out a few things like no in-body image stabilization, which is gonna deter many people, but I'm in the camp that this should not be the reason that the cookie crumbles. The outer body is very recognizable, but don't mistake it, because you can get it confused with the 50mm RF lens. I think this is a fantastic choice that they made because, as I personally carried around throughout my trip in New York, I found myself not wanting to let it go. There was one particular design choice I didn't find appealing, which was the control focus. This is my first introduction to it, and when I looked at the demos a few years ago, it looked like a really smart choice. Essentially, it gives the focus ring the ability to be set to different parts of the camera, like the ISO, shutter speed, and f-stop. The idea seemed great on paper, but in the real world, I found it to be more annoying than anything. I needed to go more into manual and autofocus rather than changing the aperture. Changing the aperture to me wasn't so drastic, but that's also my use case when I was trying to just make a simple vlog. I don't know if this is useful for anyone that does more cinematic level production, so let me know if this focus ring feature has actually been useful to you. The more that I use this piece of glass, the more it looked funny with the particular body that I have. You have this really nice body with this cheap piece of glass, right? Cheap in the photo world. But when I looked at my images, they all passed the test. I'm not about to do a brick photo test because we're trying to use this in the real world, but it was fantastic. It is far beyond what I think we would have gone 5 years ago, so I don't see myself complaining. However, it passed the test with a B. Not a B minus, not a B plus, just a solid B all across the board. Which means that if you're gonna be using this for your family outings, you're out with your friends, or you wanna get into astrophotography, but not go into major debt, then this is a great way to experiment with it. If you're gonna be shooting professionally though, then you should definitely be getting yourself a nice red ring. Another crack in the dam people might see is the filter size. It's 43mm. I don't personally see that as a downfall either. You can always get yourself a bigger filter and then step down as needed. We have to go back to IS. And this is going to be the biggest part of the video because IS is hyper important. Yes, it doesn't have IS, and I think this is where most people fall off, but I don't know why they would do that. The in-body image stabilization that you get from your body is absolutely fantastic. While there is some shake if you have an updated R5 or R6, then you can just crop regularly or enhance. And this is what I did throughout my trip. Even though it might have cropped in just a little bit, it still looked wide enough that I was able to capture anything. And I think that's a fair trade-off, right? If you don't like that, then there is the more expensive wide-angle lenses by the RF system. But to me, that seems a little bonkers. I know it's very tempting to have it both in the lens and in the body. And if you're shooting professionally, it absolutely makes so much sense. But if you're just gonna be vlogging and doing that and doing this, and you're starting off, then I'd say save your money and do something else with it. Get yourself a nice Joby GorillaPod. Check out the review right there. And even though it's not a deal breaker to me, I wish they did include it, even if it was the previous motor that was used on EF lenses and the lens was maybe 10 to 15% bigger, I would be completely fine with that and pay an extra $150 for it. But don't let that deter you from getting an excellent piece of equipment. If you look at my shot, I'm trying very hard to stay in the middle because there is just a little bit of distortion that I personally see when I'm stepping into the corner of this lens, right? Right here and right here. It just doesn't look very natural, and I would just highly stay within this grid right here. Speaking of distortion, you'll notice that inside the menu, there is one setting that's locked, and Canon did that so that way you get the best image possible. In my personal use, this saved me some time actually, because I always want to correct distortion, right? I mean, I don't know about you or you have a particular case, but I didn't see a huge issue in my usage. And to end it all off, the most notable issue that I noticed throughout my review was the focus breathing. Everything seemed completely fine when I was shooting this video, and from this example, you can tell that the lens keeps on hunting and hunting and hunting, which was really annoying, and it completely made me rearrange the video. The way that I solved this particular problem was going into the menu settings and then driving this setting down by 1. This makes it so that the focus is just a tad bit smoother and looks quote unquote cinematic, right? And keep note, so that this issue doesn't happen to you, the outer ring will actually jiggle and go back and forth. If it's hunting for focus, keep a close lookout on it. And if it starts to move around, just replay your content, because I didn't notice it on a small LCD screen. The price point, the size, weight, performance, image results are all fantastic on this very affordable piece of glass. I didn't think that this was possible. And I know that IBIS and IS go together like salt and pepper, but don't let that deter you from getting an excellent piece of glass that's going to make shooting so much fun. I had just a blast knowing that I could put this lens and shoot differently in different spaces, go down and under, and just carry it around with me all day. And I think you would have the exact amount of fun if you go out there and grab yourself one of these bad boys. Let me know what your thoughts are, especially with the ring, because I'm not a particular fan of it. And make sure to follow me on Twitter. That's it for right now. At the end of the day, I thank you so much for your time and your attention. My name is Hongos, and I'll catch you in the next one.